right, so this is the Afterburn. So if you have comments or questions, you can come on up or line up to come up. Steve, you can go first.
So when you were reading Deuteronomy 30, verse 19, I've read it a lot of times. I never really made the connection, and then my brain just kind of made a connection real quick. And it says that he had called the heavens and earth as witnesses. And when you explain that, it was that when they're here, that means it's still here. And then it brought me to Matthew 5, verse 18, where it says, "For truly I say to you, till heaven and the earth pass away, one yod or one tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done." And it just blew my mind. It was awesome.
Good, excellent, thank you. Again, these are things where he said, until heaven and earth pass away, not one of these things will be done away. And obviously heaven and earth have not been passed away. So these things still exist. And it's not, again, where you're going to be looking for, well, in Revelation, the heavens and the earth do actually burn away. It's not trying to lead to a point where there's no more. At that point, we will all be that without needing to remember the instructions, because we'll have already become that. You understand what I'm saying? Okay? So let's just use it as long as it's still there, it's a reminder that it's still valid. And as long as we're in flesh, it's still going to be there. So it's still valid. Okay, and now your wife wanted to come up.
Yes, because so lately I've been struggling with something, and one of my favorite teachings is, do you trust him enough to obey him? And I've been really struggling with submission. And it wasn't until you were just talking that it really hit me deep in my heart that there's something I'm not trusting. I have m.t.o.i. I trust that everything is from him or allowed by him. I think, moreover, it's me trusting me to do what he says I need to do that I'm struggling with more than anything. But could that more be a distrust in him that maybe I'm not seeing?
It could be, but it also could be simply that it depends on what you mean by I'm not trusting myself. Sometimes you don't trust yourself to make choices, means you should be getting counsel, okay? But if it's something actually you're supposed to do and you don't trust yourself to do it, that's something that's not really about him, it's really about you. It's that balance between what you would rather do versus what he says to do.
I think it's more in the heat of the moment. Do I trust myself to not veer away from who I'm trying to be in him? Not like keeping the law, but like certain demeanors that I have, like angry attitudes that maybe don't carry the message the way that it should when someone approaches me about why I wrap my hair or why I don't go to church on Sunday. Trusting myself not to say something that will be completely, utterly offensive, I think is...
Well, to fix this, we have to ask the question, well, why would you say something? Why would you be tempted to say something offensive?
That's a good question. Probably because I'm an asshole.
All right.
I don't know how else to say. I really am, and it's not that I'm trying to...
But that's not the problem, okay? It looks like that in the way it comes out, okay? The problem is you act in that way because you're either personally offended by what they do or you just are tired of answering. It's an emotional response to something that's triggering you that makes you act like one, whatever word you use, right? It makes you act in a way that's just wrong. But there's an underlying cause to that, because you're not like that in all situations. You're in certain things will trigger a intolerance. That's really the cause, right? Intolerance. So you got to dig under and say, what happened that I was so intolerant of that I act in a mean way, in some jerkish, rude, obnoxious way, okay? Why? Because the question irritated me. Well, why? Be curious, look at that, then maybe you'll dig underneath. If you want to counsel, I can help dig underneath those things. But that's what's going on, okay? All right? Something about the question causes you to act in a way you don't normally act. Because there are people, that, by the way, who are that way all the time. So it doesn't matter what's happening. And that's a whole different problem. But for you, it's not the way you are normally, it's what happens sometimes. So why? Something happened that irritated you, that became too intolerable, so you snapped at the person. okay? So we got to figure out what that is all about, okay? All right, you're welcome. Okay, but it's not about trusting him. It's a psycho-emotional challenge that needs to be worked out in you. All right, Melissa.
Rabbi, when my daughter had her son, she kept calling him dude, and it was her baby. I said, that's not his name. And I realized that she had never bonded with him. And I told her, you have not bonded with your child, even though you carried him for 9 months. And I still think in my head, in my mind, sometimes I still can't make that connection with Yahweh to totally trust him, I guess it is. Are we supposed to bond with him? I know that I've been taught and heard that as you obey him, you find out you're supposed to keep Torah and you do this as you are in obedience, and then put yourself out of the way, get off the throne and let him be sovereign, that love comes. But still, I think about these shows like Avatar and about dinosaurs where they have these animals and they bond with them when they hook their tails together. And so, we need that connection with Yahweh, but yet I guess it's rejection, and we put him on a level of us, like he's human and not the sovereign that he is, and it's kind of hard for some people to do that. So,
okay, remember the process of Deuteronomy 10:12. We fear him first. There's no bonding there. But we recognize with awe and reverence who and what he is, okay? And because of that, we decide we're going to do what he says. Because we have enough awe and reverence for who and what he is, that we say, okay, we're going to trust that and do what he says. And in doing what he says, we come to realize that he loves us enough to give us these instructions because they actually benefit us. Mm-hmm. That starts the bonding, okay? The bonding comes to a relationship over time of belief action and seeing that it works, okay? You're talking about like an Avatar, a instant chemical bonding, right? When there was these connections physically that were made. We're not talking about that with Yahweh. Yahweh, it's an experiential bonding that happens over time through the interaction and experience with each other, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Look, and also for those of you, because when she came up earlier, I forgot your first name. Wendy. When Wendy came up and after Stephen came up, his wife came up, and she was talking about submission as part of this thing. She didn't mention it this way, but I want you to all understand, especially for the ladies and for the guys, if you're married, almost all marriages have submission issues. And there's a blame that can go on both sides. The blame comes from what? Trust issues. You ladies don't submit often, not always, sometimes it's other self-sovereign issues, but often because you don't trust your husbands. Guys, some of that's your fault. You're not trustworthy. So they don't believe you've got something under control, that you're handling it right, and that it's all gonna be okay. So there's a combination of things that are going on there. Okay, she's gotta give you a chance and trust you, but you've gotta be trustworthy. All right, and that's really why a lot of marriages have a problem, because there's a negative on both sides. The man has done some things that have shown himself to not be trustworthy, maybe with finances, maybe with whatever. Not even like cheating type of thing, but like just trustworthy in general to handle certain things a certain way. Or even when he's maybe fixed that and the wife still doesn't trust him. Because she's learned that he wasn't trustworthy before, and now how do you fix that? So sometimes I give the grief to the wife because he's made the effort and fixed some things and she's admitted he hasn't. Well, then you got to start trusting him. Or he still hasn't fixed some things and I look at the guy and say, what do you expect from her? You're still not trustworthy. See, when we deal with Yah, he's always trustworthy. So any trust problem is us. It's not like any potential for it to be both sides. In a marriage, it can be both sides. Okay, the wife's just not trusting the husband in areas that she probably should, and the husband is dropping the ball. Okay, as far as breaching the trust, okay? And that can be really, really tough. Okay, but that's what we're talking about here in a perfect and an imperfect as opposed to two imperfects. Okay, Yah's perfect, we're not, and we need to trust him. And so I wanted to kind of throw that out there when people say things like submission. Submission is all about trust, okay? Now, I know some of it's about self-sovereignty. Some of you just don't want to give up any authority in your life, so it's hard for you to submit, whether it's to a man in leadership or whether it's to a husband with a wife submitting to the husband or whatever it is. But some of it is trust. I just don't trust you. So I'm going to jump in and do what I want to do because I don't trust you. Gentlemen, if your wives are really struggling at all, you got to really work on A, being trustworthy, and B, convincing them to give you the chance to be trustworthy. Like, trust me, give this a chance, let it play out. Okay, I've had to do that. Every man should have to, at some point, do that with their wife. They're in a situation that they've never been in before, and the husband says, I've got this. You need to trust me, right? Elder, I'm sure you've done, everybody's done that. At some point, something comes up that, it says, I've got this, trust me. And then you have to make sure that you do what you can. You got to make sure that you don't breach that trust. Okay, so guys, it's not just about being trustworthy. You have to convince your spouse to give you that opportunity to demonstrate that you're trustworthy. That's what Yah says. Yah says, test me, try me, see if I'm trustworthy. All these things I said, see if they don't play out or not. And he's always trustworthy. We have to just be trustworthy too. All right, Janet.
I really like what you said when you're talking about Deuteronomy and you were going over verse 15 when it said that Yah will, all, the word was near to you, near your mouth, and then it said, I've set before you life and good, right? Or death and evil. And at some point you were saying that Yahweh, your Elohim, shall bless you. And you were saying, well, sometimes you see the blessing happening, but like you were giving the example of a person who needed to lose weight, like, why don't you focus on what you haven't accomplished? Focus on what you have. Focus on what you see happening already in your life. And so I have seen through the time that we've been doing this walk properly, I would say properly, because we did it for a little while before coming under your teaching.
Right.
That this exactly is what I've seen, like the blessing coming when I'm obeying, and then not being blessed when I'm not obeying, right? And when it said the voice of Yahweh, to me, like the voice, I can hear him. I mean, people say they hear him. I mean, I guess it comes in thoughts, but the audible voice is really coming from you through your teaching, through the counseling. So I see the connection very clearly. But even though my trust has been increasing as a result of that.
Right.
But going with the 7 areas that we've been working on, there's probably one area in particular that I'm not 100% trusting him, and what to do with that, because I see the evidence, I see the evidence through the walk.
Right.
So maybe there is something deeper there, you think?
Then we just have to counsel about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I do want to say that, and again, this is the teaching time, so it doesn't have recorded in with it the time during prayer time. But when you came up and gave a little praise that your marriage has an anniversary and you've been married, 22 years or whatever it's been, right? But part of the testimony also was that you guys had been struggling, and then you came to me, and over the years we've been counseling, and it's worked, right? It's borne good fruit. But that's because you trusted, both of you trusted to do, or at least apply and try to apply what was given to you as guidance and advice, taking it as it coming from above. Not that I said, this is from above, but I just said, look, try this, do this, this is and I've given blame to both of you when it was either one of your faults and said, look, this is your fault, you need to fix this, whatever. But you guys have taken it and trusted, hey, let's give this thing a shot and do it, and you've gotten the fruit, okay? So you're not the couples, like the many of you out there that come to us, we give instruction, then when you come back and we say, did you do what we said? And you say, no, because you guys actually do what we said. And so you've gotten the result that we expect you to get when we give you the guidance. So good for you. That's a good testimony, right? Because I know how bad things were. I mean, there were some challenges there, and you guys have really come a long way because you both worked at it. Okay, you both worked at it. Okay.
Thank you for that. No, thank you not for what you said. Thank you for all what you've given us. That's what I'm saying.
Do you understand that guidance is only as good as you putting it to use? I can give you the best advice you ever heard that ever existed that is absolutely guaranteed perfect, and if you don't do anything with it, that guidance was useless. It was nothing. So it doesn't really just to say, oh, well, the guidance. No, you have to get your credit. That's why he says that he's going to do things like he's going to circumcise the flesh of your heart. No, you're going to do that. He's going to put you through things that are going to cause you to want to do that. But this is very much about us doing so that we grow. If he does it, you don't grow. Right? So stop thinking like Christianity teaches or whatever, and that somehow he's doing everything and you're not doing anything. No, it's not. You're trusting that his guidance about what you are to do is going to bring the transformation that you desire. But it's through our doing that everything happens. That doesn't take him out of the loop. It completely puts him properly in the loop as the one guiding everything, instructing everything, but then sitting there going, but you got to do it, okay? Yeah. Some of you have done too much for your children, and by the time they get to be 17, 18 years old, they're not ready to go out because you've done all the cleaning for them, you've done all the laundry for them, you've done all the cooking. You never taught them how to do anything. But if I have them do it, it'll take too long, and it'll be messy, and then I'll have to, but you have to equip them. You have to let them make mistakes. I had one parent say to me, well, I never let her cook because, it takes forever, and I got to explain, and then she makes a mess, and then I got, the first time, second time, third time, but at some point, they get good at it. And then life is better for all of you because now you have a second person who can cook, and they're now being equipped for the future. That's what we try to do here. That's what he does all throughout Scripture. I'm equipping you through your growth, through your efforts, through your learning and experiences to be what I'm going to have you be in the future, in the forever. I've got plans you can't imagine is what he says. But I need you to evolve, we'll call it, into what you're supposed to grow into. I'm not talking like through evolution. I mean like you becoming the full you can be. And that's only through your experiential change. Not through him doing it to you and for you. Okay?
And so that's kind of what I've seen, through this walk. There's a growing up. There's a maturing. There is this person that I'm seeing in myself that I'm willing to see where I'm wrong, where I'm falling short, where I'm not making any progress, and it's not always easy to do that,
Right. Because
it is a humbling process, and a lot of times it's through tears and through obviously trying to change patterns that I've had for years, even with behaviors or thoughts or things like that, but it is worth it. Because I want to be worthy, like when you said you're worthless if you're not following,
right.
Before his eyes. I want him to look at me and say you're worthy, like you're doing it. You're actually working on yourself.
That's why he says, "Well done."
Yes.
Right? Because you must be doing. Look, how many of you remember developing the character of Yeshua teaching? In the very beginning of that teaching, I talked about paradigm shifts. If you remember. What was the last paradigm shift that we're trying to get through now? Growing up. Okay, going from a child of Israel to an adult of Israel. This is the hard part. When it says, this command that I'm commanding today is not too hard. Well, no, the mechanical stuff's not too hard. You growing up, that's tough. Okay? And by the way, that's the problem in every marriage. That's the problem in every employer situation. That's the problem in every congregation, in every friendship, is the baby junk that gets in the way, the immaturity, okay? That's really essentially the problem, that if we could just grow up, none of that stuff would be there. But we act like babies. We're easily offended. We whine and cry and get all offended and lash out and do things that babies do. That's just the reality of it. We got to grow up. All right, Pete.
So my wife and I started following you back when we were in your teachings, and the reason we have been here for going on 10 years now has been because we were able to trust in what you said because we found truth in what you were saying. We found truth in your teachings that we had never seen before. And because we found that truth, we came to some understanding of how to apply what you were teaching us and what's in the Torah, apply that to our lives, and we have benefited from that. And so I say that to say that I think truth and trust are inextricably intertwined. That if you find something, you can't trust a liar. But if you find that truth isn't there to some extent, then you no longer trust. So I'm wondering if the people who have gone off the path, if they've chosen to trust or find truth in something other than where they started.
Look, I think part of it is recognizing all of the various factors. Okay, so for example, if you listen to someone teach, a week later, do you remember anything from it? Even a day later, do you remember anything from it? Because I've listened to a lot of people teach and I don't remember anything they said the next day. Or even an hour later, I was like, I don't even know what they were saying. Because it didn't have anything impactful. It didn't reveal something to me I didn't know before, whatever, see things in a different way. There was no impact, okay? If you're looking for a teacher, that teacher should be revealing things about you to yourself, about him to you as well, about all these different things that impact you, all right? I mean, you can go listen to the 50,000 versions of Korach from last night. A lot of them are doing it today. And, you know, but are they going to teach it in a way that you can really look for you and see something and be impacted? And also, if you're looking for Yah, when you say the truth, when I explain something you've never understood or always understood some wrong way, it always seemed off, whatever, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly it. With clarity, like clear as a bell, whatever, that's from above. But the question is, how does that impact you in terms of the way you think of the teacher? Or is this just some random guy happened to just, you know, get lucky on something? Well, what if you hear it every week? What if you hear it all the time? Is that something that should make you think differently about the teacher? Okay? Because I mean, I check out teachings all the time and I've gotten almost nothing. And that's not trying to be cocky or this or that. They're not offering anything. They're giving the same standard Torah portion, whatever thing that they all give the same thing. It's all vanilla nothing, okay? Okay, there's no nuances or flavor to it or anything. And I never get the, oh, okay, now this makes sense. Or wow, I never thought of it that way. But now that you explained it that way, I'll never see it again in the same way. Now I can see that's what it's really saying. That's all from above. I'm not taking any credit to that, okay?
But the truth in the Torah is layered, isn't it? Aren't there layers that you have to unpeel?
But the thing is, do you have a teacher that has the tools or gift to unpeel? See, unpeeling doesn't mean just going to the Hebrew and to the paleo and the picture. That's not unpeeling. That's just digging out interesting things necessarily. It could be unpeeling, but it's not necessarily it. You're looking for someone that takes the section of the verses and help you say, oh, this is what Yah wanted me to get out of this so I can become what I'm supposed to become. Which is why I teach the way I do. I teach you stuff that I hope and intend for you to be able to take today and take some element out of it and use it today, okay? As opposed to just going, oh, that was interesting. Because unless it's really super interesting, you're not gonna remember it tomorrow or the next day or the next day. Just, okay, that was interesting, all right? Hey, you know, I listened to this teaching by so-and-so, I thought it was really good. Well, what'd they say? I don't remember exactly, but I thought it was good. Because you enjoyed it to whatever degree. But then you listen to something and say, oh my gosh, I now know what grace really is. I now know what evil really is. I now know what this is. I've never understood sin before. Oh my gosh, right? Whatever. That's what I'm trying to provide every week. I'm not looking to say, I'm gonna go wow you guys. I'm just gonna share what he tells me to share, knowing full well he's gonna bring clarity to stuff that you are missing clarity on. At least some of you, okay? And for some of you, he's already given you some of the clarity, but nobody else has ever said it, so you're gonna get confirmation. Oh, wow, I thought I was the only one that thought that. And now you get confirmation. Because some of you have figured some of these things out or been inspired, but you've never heard anybody ever say it from a microphone. And you're like, oh, cool. And now and also I'll give you the verses to defend it and make the argument. Even though you may have had an insight, but you didn't really know how to explain it or how to defend it, I give you the verses, right? That's all the way he is using me to do those kind of things. So when you're looking at teachers, do you trust, what evidence would you need from a teacher to say that that teacher has an anointing? What would they do different than another teacher? All right, anybody can get up and do a basic Torah portion, dissertation. They can pull up 50 million of them online to try to glean out of what the rabbis have said and other people have said over all the years and give your standard explanation of a Torah portion. Okay? And then that after a while, first time you hear it might impact you because you've never heard it before. But when then you hear the same thing every year after year after year, you're going to want to shoot yourself. I'm just quoting a guy that went to a congregation where that's all they did year after year. And he said, if I got to go through this one more time, you know. Because I do this Torah portions every year after year, but you know what? You get a little different thing, a little insight, a little bit different way that I word it, because I don't have it pre-written. I got some bullet points, and we're going to go over whatever I feel like he wants to emphasize this year out of that portion, okay? Anyway, all right, Maisie.
I want to thank you for redoing this teaching. This was the first teaching that I found you on back in 2022 when I first started following. And man, compared to the first teaching, this teaching is just full of nuggets and just extra downloads from above. It's so awe-inspiring to watch what Abba does through you. Throughout the Tanakh, Abba loves to talk about our being stiff-necked. But in Yeshayahu, he really tells us just how stiff our necks are. In Yeshayahu 48, verse 4, he says, because I knew that you were hard, and your neck was an iron sinew, and your forehead bronze. Now, I think back to...
Is that why he needs a rod of iron? Because that sounds like a pretty hard head. I'm just, you know.
Yeah, that's... I think about what you said last Shabbat when you talked about seeking his face, not being literal, but think of it more as what expression is on his face when he's looking down on you and watching what you're doing. Do you want your father to think of you as having a bronze forehead and an iron sinew neck? Or do you want him to look down at you and smile and with love and say, that child of mine is obedient? But it also lends to the fact that he talks about in Yirmiyahu 13 about worthless and useless girdles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So...
we got that as an in focus, I think.
Yeah.
Are you a worthless girdle or something like that? Yeah, absolutely. No, listen, this is important stuff. Look, I can tell you this from a ministry point of view. Elder, you can go ask him the same thing. You don't have to be doing this very long to, at some point, you have a conversation like with someone else who's also in ministry, and you're going to hear these words. They're not listening. Okay? Every conversation, at some point, he's going to say, or I'm going to say, whatever we're discussing, they're not listening. But you expect that everybody's listening to some degree, but you do this for a little while, you realize, in general, not everybody, probably everybody at some point, you're not listening. Not just to us, not listening to him, they're not listening. Okay? And it's really tough.
Yeah, he might want to throw in there that we have ears of adamantium steel.
Yep. Hey, listen, I think I had a teaching called Are You Listening?
Yeah.
Okay? You might want to go listen to that one. All right.
So yeah, that just made me really look inside myself and say, is my forehead like bronze and my neck like iron sinew? Because sometimes I just fight against what I know I should do, and that's just ridiculous because we know throughout his scriptures, he just constantly talks about us listening and obeying and doing what he says, and he'll take care of the rest.
It's a trust issue.
Yeah.
Okay? And again, you guys need to read some of the prophets a lot more to realize how he talks to them. And then maybe you'll appreciate me more.
Yeah, those are my favorite books. I enjoy reading.
Because I'm a lot nicer than some of that stuff. I'm not saying I'm nicer than him, but the way it comes across, the words he uses, and you guys get all bent into shape about how I talk. You know, he comes right in their face and you guys are the hardest headed, stiffest necked, whatever, you know.
Yeah, because I'm reading Yehezkel right now. He's really giving it to him in there.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
you're going to sit there and tell me I didn't say what I said and it's not going to do what I sent it to do?
That's
okay,
right.
I'm going to show you better than I can tell you.
That's right.
So,
You don't believe me, huh? Let's see. Kind of like what happened with Moses just in the Korach thing. You guys think you're something? Okay, good. You bring your fire holders and we'll see what's going on.
but this teaching brought me to a realization because a couple of weeks ago I stood up here and talked about how I hated myself. And Abba has been pouring into me lately through this teaching of yours, and he made me realize that I don't hate myself. I hate what I allowed myself to become.
Don't hate that, but use it as motivation to change, that's all.
Yes.
Yeah, because the bitterness of the hate is going to derail some of the growth.
So now I'm on a whole entire different journey.
Yay,
And
awesome.
Praise Yah.
See, look, the way Yah said it through Moses was like, we're going to see who is Yah's and who is dead. That's how blunt it was, okay? He also told the people, pick a side. Pick a side, but that side's going to end up in the hole and the ground's going to open up and swallow them up, okay? All right, Marlene.
Hi, my name is Marlene, and I'm recovering a-hole.
There you go.
That was for you, Wendy. So
Everybody's now going to be turning off the YouTube because these guys are loud. How come Rabbi's not throwing a fit?
Hey, I said A. You can make up the rest of the words.
That's right. You're a recovering hole in the ground. You're a hole in the ground.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a recovering hole.
Yeah.
A-hole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Move on.
so I just want to say I just really appreciate how.
Listen, our president just threw the F-bomb out there the other day. Anything's anything, okay? You guys are clapping for that. I thought it was perfect anyway when he said it. I couldn't blame him. You get frustrated enough, he's like, these people don't know what they're doing, right? And so, okay, go ahead.
I didn't realize how ugly I was, internally, like acting, that way, until I came here and got introduced to the pressure cooker of the community. So glory to Yahweh. And thank you for not wavering in your message, because your message has been the same all these years about us transforming, about us doing the doing, and I'm finding when my ugliness comes out, then if I look at myself and say, wow, like you said, why is that coming out? Like, why are you acting like that? Then I have to realize what's going on and be an expert in my issues, like you say all the time.
Right.
We have to do the doing.
Yep.
And I'm so thankful that I'm on this path. Like now I can see the path so much more clearly, that when something ugly comes up, or when I find myself not acting in fruit of the Spirit, or not having my vision clear, like staying focused on what I'm supposed to be staying on, then he kind of leads me back. He leads me back. And so I've had so much growth. And you have empowered us by telling us we can do it. Instead of waiting around for the magic wand and the genie to, we can do it. And it's like when the ugly thing comes up, like when Wendy was talking about, when you were saying, you have to dig and see what that thing is.
Sure.
And you see, okay, there's a new thing to play with, and then you dig and you start researching and counseling or therapy or whatever it takes to get that thing worked out. We're empowered. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to wait around for the by and by, like Terry said one time, Terry Griggs. She's like, you gotta wait for the by and by. She's like, I don't wanna wait for the by and by. We don't have to wait, because, the kingdom is here. The kingdom is at hand.
If you wait, all the people that were doing the doing are saying bye-bye. We've gone, we've moved on.
So I'm just so thankful to be here. I'm so thankful for all your teachings, like you said, about seeing if, and like you said, every Torah portion is a new thing. It's so exciting because every Torah portion, even though we've gone over it every year, there's a new nuance of something that we can work in ourselves. And I'm thankful that Yahweh has us doing it so that our mind can be opened more and more every Torah portion.
Amen.
So thank you for everything you're doing here with the whole thing, the whole the music and everything that's here. All
Awesome.
the people that you have in leadership, it's all going together. So yeah, we're getting better and better,
Amen.
and we are transforming. So hallelujah.
Amen. All right, so let me kind of clarify something the two things I want to clarify. So one is when Maisie brought up about the repentance teaching versus the original repentance teaching. What is the difference? Well, I'm able to do more now, having laid all these other teachings out, than I could do then, before I taught all these other teachings. Same thing with the Torah portions. When we get to the Torah portion this year, knowing all the teachings I did since the last time we did the Torah portion, I have things that I know you got already instructed on and that you got clarity on that I can now bring into, as appropriately it gets brought into, that Torah portion. Because these are things that before that first repentance teaching, I hadn't taught about sin or evil or some of these other things had not been taught yet. A lot of them, that's an old teaching, okay? And so some of them were foundationally brought out from my first time doing ministry, back from 25 years ago. The original fear of Yahweh, the original love and Torah, all these things were all older teachings that I brought as foundational teachings just to lay beginnings out there for you guys. Then when I went to redo them, I was like, oh, now that I've taught you a few things, now let's dig into this a little bit deeper because I have given you the tools to understand deeper or more thorough, okay? So it's not so much deeper. People always saying to me, oh, I want to go deeper. So you're not even dealing with the stuff I already taught you. What deeper do you want? And please tell me, I'm not bragging here, but I mean, really, what's out there that's deeper than what I give you? Okay? Oh, well, I want to dig into the Hebrew and the this and the Greek and I give you that when it's needed. I'm not saying you shouldn't go do that, but what deeper are you going to get out of that? Are you even dealing with the stuff you've been given already? Or are you just on an addiction to just digging and digging and digging and not doing and doing and doing? All right? Think about it. That's a problem for some of you, okay? So that's something I want you to really be thinking about. And then also, for those of you that are watching right now, I want you to understand that somebody may get up in the chat or they may get up here and say something you don't like, use words you don't like or something like that. I'm not encouraging people to do it. I'm not going to sit up here and smack everybody for doing it either. I don't think language is that big a deal. But you do, that's fine. But you know what? You were meant to be here to see that. So maybe it's bringing something out of you need to deal with. Okay? If somebody uses words you wouldn't use, so you wouldn't use them. What does it do? Does it hurt your ear? Does somebody use the word you don't like? Did it damage something? Oh, but my children are also watching. Your children hear worse than whatever you hear here. Probably out of your mouth at your house or your husband or your whatever, okay? So I won't even start with whatever they hear. Or if they've got older siblings, they've heard, trust me, okay? So let's not get that all the thing, but just if you were led, drawn here, it was meant to receive what you were meant to receive and also deal with whatever it stirs out of you, okay? Now, if it stirs you enough, don't get upset about it. Just go somewhere else, okay? If you think that means we're not qualified this, because we're going to get emails about this anyway. Elders are already ready for those emails. They're coming. You can just stop writing them now. They just go right in the garbage. I mean, it's okay? I'm aware of what happened. I was sitting right here, and I addressed it as much as I'm going to address it, okay? Because I grew up hearing everything under the sun. And so did you. Stop pretending like you're such a goody-goody, okay? All right? Some of you had mouths that people only knew, okay? All right? And you walk around now like sweet old lady thing or whatever. Oh, no, but you had your mouth when you were younger. Some of you still do. Some of you can make like a sailor blush, as they say, right? All right? So let's not be all hypocritical about stuff, all right? Okay? No, I do not want to encourage people to come up because I don't want to deal with this nonsense. Okay? I really don't. All right? But I don't need you to get all upset about it either. I think the person used an appropriate term to describe what they really felt that they were doing. And we all know what it meant and we all got the picture perfectly. That's communication. That's what language is meant to do. Okay? Now, when you just use language indiscriminately, well then it's blurring the usefulness of it, okay? So no, I don't think we should just be throwing all kinds of stuff out there all the time. And no, I'm not encouraging you to do it up here, but if something comes out and it's all you can, and I'm not gonna kill you for it either, okay? And if it filters some of the overly sensitive people out of here, well, then they need to go. Listen, we're on a rough trip. Okay? I mean, he's calling people, you know, in Isaiah, he called them maggots. He says, you maggots, Israel. Okay? Here, I read it to you. That's Isaiah 40, where is it? 1 or 3? 1. Okay, he goes, let's see where it was here. He goes, 41:14. Do not fear, you worm. In Hebrew, that means worms that grow in dead things, maggots. Do not fear, you worm, Jacob, you men of Israel. He didn't say, look, don't be afraid, I'm going to help you. He says, look at how he words it. He says, we'll take the word worm part out. Do not fear, I'm going to help you, declares Yahweh. He says, stop acting like a maggot, like a dead thing, worm thing. Oh, that's pretty strong stuff. Let's stop our little overly sensitive nonsense, okay? We're dealing with a really rough world at a rough time, which is always a rough time, and we're gonna get all worried because somebody said a word that you didn't like? Really? What are you gonna do when stuff really happens? When hits the fan. I really should have said it just to mess all of you up. Okay? Because it's going to. And probably in some of your lives, it's happening like last week or a couple of days ago. The stuff is just going all over the place, and you're gonna get all upset because somebody said a word? And you're gonna let that block everything else you could have got out of today? Really? See, some of you are like, you'd rather me sit there and scold the person. And no, I don't have any problem with any of that stuff. And they'll be like, oh, wow. And you call yourself a rabbi. No, you call me a rabbi. Okay? He called me as I was, okay? If he wanted somebody like Mr. Rogers or whatever, he would have called me. Can you say teshuva, boys and girls? I knew you could. Let me go get my sweater. Then you think I was a real whatever. What she said. Some of you think I'm one of those now. Can we grow up? I mean, seriously, can we grow up? And not be all panicky about this, that, and the other thing? It's just, we need to grow up, all right? We're dealing with really, really hard things. Not Torah, us. We're dealing with growing up in a world where the world has not grown up. And so let's not be so sensitive. Anyway, Deirdre.
Oh boy, do I love it here. Okay, so you said something just a second ago, and I don't know if this is relevant to the teaching, but I think it is. When you said there is those who are Yahweh's and those who are dead, would the world flip that if we're on this walk? Like, would they see us as dead, especially if they are in like another spiritual walk? Would they maybe see us as dead instead?
Oh, there's all religions have some sort of us versus them thing built into it for the most part, and it gets real ugly at times about that. But they do it in general. I'm saying that Yahweh was dealing with rebellion. Okay? So we'll see who is the ones I put in place and who's dead.
Okay, so that's basically...
Okay, and it was the punishment for the rebellion.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Now, the other people that were going to die too was because they were going to decide to join and support the rebellion. Said, you want to be on their side? Go stand over by them. All right? So it's not about just, we'll see who's observing things correctly and who's dead. That's not the way it works. He's not that, cruel to say you're going to have to be perfect or that's it. He's saying not being perfect does earn ultimately death, but we have a Messiah that's made it possible through repentance and the processes that are laid out to not end up dead.
Okay.
As in permanent death, right?
Okay. Okay. More may be needed. I might have to just schedule something with you.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you anyway. Sorry.
No problem. No problem. Janet.
Yeah, I had this question before, but because there's nobody else, I thought maybe I can just come and ask you that, Rabbi.
All of you on live stream, she just called you nobody else.
I mean, over here is what I meant, sorry. Okay, so the question I had before was about, at some point, I think it was when you were talking about how the children of Israel secretly did against Yahweh.
Well, they thought it was secret.
Okay, so my question is about that. So, okay, so like I was saying before, like I am working on myself, but more about my character, right? My inner growth. Mm-hmm. With that, something that I can be doing secretly could be something that I'm not necessarily overlooking, but also maybe something that I am not completely seeing it yet. Mm-hmm. So in that awareness, like you were talking about during the Rosh Chodesh service, you were saying become really into you, like focus on yourself, like figuring yourself out, right?
Right. Not into you.
Right.
But
No.
to be curious.
Yes.
And paying attention and observing to figure yourself out. Okay?
Thank you. So that thing that I'm doing, that I know is still there for me, that I'm not
right.
seeing yet, that's also like trusting through looking at myself, trusting the Father that He may inspire it just to show me through your teaching, but also even counseling. Is
right.
that how we dig in and find some other things that maybe relate connected to perhaps a behavior or an area that is not producing the fruit consistently?
There's going to be very little, relatively speaking, okay, percentage-wise, dealing with the character development, personal development, flaws, and growing up stuff scripturally. There's lots of things telling you need to do it, but there's not a lot that helps dig out how to go about dealing with your past and your traumas and this and that and everything else. That has to come from counseling, okay? That's where you go and you find someone who's an expert in whatever you're struggling in. Now, you observe that you struggle in something, and then you go and say, I'm struggling in this. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what to do with it. Find somebody that they've, over years, have learned from other people who have learned or whatever, how to deal with something successfully that you're dealing with, okay? So there's nothing in Scripture that tells you how to deal with depression or anxiety. It's not addressed. Although people had plenty of that at times. You can see the people with that. It comes from, you have to go find someone who's an expert and get guidance and counsel, okay? Also, somebody that can do, say, like what you've seen me do up here at the mic, where someone's saying something, and I'm like, okay, that's not exactly the problem, let's dig under that, and then this is the problem. And they're like, oh, okay, but that's an experienced guide who can figure out what really the problem is, okay? And so that, again, is something that you can't just take verses to fix, because there aren't verses just to fix that stuff, okay? I mean, there's not a lot of verses telling you how to handle your money. There are some, okay? Okay, so it says like a fool and his money are separated easily and things like that, but there's not a lot of things that tell you how like to make a budget and keep a ledger and to invest and other things like that. I mean, we have the parable of the talents where you should have invested it, but didn't say how to invest it and be wise about it or anything like that. So you have to use wisdom of people that have lived life and have learned things. Abba puts us here not just to receive from him, but to receive from each other those things that he doesn't cover from learning from experience. Through trial and error over all the thousands of years, people have learned a few things. And what you don't know about those areas, if you find somebody who's learned a few things, that may be helpful to you, okay? I watch a lot of little YouTube shorts and TikToks and everything else on things that I think, well, that might be something that might work for me in this thing I'm trying to work on. A lot of times it's health-related things and things I'm trying to find the right supplement or the right exercise or the right program to try to deal with. So I'm listening to people that claim they've got a solution that worked for them. Doesn't mean it'll work for me, but I might consider it. I'll look at it. I'll play through what I know, see if it makes any sense. I might give it a try. But those are things that I'm not going to find in here. But Abba put us in a world that we experience and we can learn from. Do you rent or do you own? I don't know, it doesn't say in here. If you are to go from one to the other, what's the right timing? It doesn't say in here. Should I get this insurance program or that insurance program? Should I get a 401k, or do I get a regular IRA or a Roth IRA? None of that's in here, but you might need guidance with that, right? How do you get that? He put us in a world where we've learned also, and he wants to see what we've learned and how we apply what we've learned, and do we gain and glean wisdom in the secular functions of life? Because there's not a whole lot of discussion in here of how to function in the secular world. He tells us how to function in the spiritual realm and how we deal with him while we're in the secular world. So one of our goals and jobs is to show that we can go seek out wisdom and knowledge in areas that we are not functioning like we'd like to, and see how we then apply it. And he's watching, what do you do when given a problem? You know, talking to somebody the other day, and they were having some issue, and I was like, so why didn't you at least Google it and see what comes up? I mean, you know, but see, at this point in my life, I know that's the first simple thing to do. If I have a question that I know somebody out there probably has an answer to, I can just type it in and see the 5,000 responses that come up of people that have dealt with that question. And I wonder why others are not doing that at this point in life. It's not a new idea. It's been around for forever. Okay, before there was a Google, there were still search engines. Anybody remember using Alta Vista and Yahoo? Okay, before there was Google. All right? So we have a role to play in demonstrating to him that when we're challenged, that we can seek to how to figure it out and fix the problem ourselves. That shows a maturity and a competence, right? Okay, if I'm hiring somebody for a high position, let's say I have a corporation and I want to hire somebody for a supervisor or an executive position, I want to know their history of competence in handling challenges, coming up with solutions, how they go about all that. And I'm sure that the answer is not going to say they prayed about it. And I'm not against praying about everything. I'm just saying you're going to have to go seek somebody that knows what you don't know, okay? See, I come from an entrepreneurial world where I can own a business that I know zero about, but I know it will make money, but I'll hire the people that know everything about. I don't need to know anything about it. I just need to know whether or not it'll make money. Okay? So I can go and get in that business. I can hire the people that can do the work that know what they're doing, the people that know how to run it that know what they're doing, they know everything about it. I don't have to know anything. As a matter of fact, we work with a guy right now, won't mention him, that I think knows nothing about his business. Okay? But he owns the business. He's one of our vendors we get supplies from. I really think he doesn't know anything about his business. Okay? But he owns the business. And he has good people working for him that know everything about the business. Okay? What you need to do is, you don't need to know everything about everything, but you need to know where to get those answers. You need to know how, you know, I don't do a lot of work on my car, but I know people that can when I need work done. So I don't need to know how to change my brakes. I need to know where to go to get my brakes changed. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, you may also choose to say, you know, I'm curious to do that myself, and maybe you learn how to do those things yourself. But you're still going to go to somebody who knows how and ask them, hey, could you do that and show me what you're doing, teach me how to do it? That was a long-winded answer, but hopefully that helped somebody, right? Okay, live stream. I left you like almost 20 minutes.
All right, first one's from Ernesto. Rabbi, is Israel today, like in 2 Kings 17, behaving this way also in the form of not trusting Abba Yahweh?
I think I said that. By Israel meaning not the land from 1948, but Israel, the people have acted the same way since Adam, okay? We've not changed a whole lot. Now, there are some individuals that have, but as a group, collectively, nothing's really changed very much. I've often joked and said if Paul was alive today, standing in any congregation today, he'd be like, really? Because very little has changed, all right? As a whole. All right, next.
This one's also from Ernesto. Yahweh wants us to obey him. Is the way to do this completely by deep diving into his words, meditation, calming, to become obedient by taking what he says literally because Yahweh means what he says?
Yes.
From Truth of Ruth, I have realized my weakness is work drama. It is easy to get pulled into it with how many people work there. How am I to pull myself out of it and become more like him?
Look, most challenges in life come to a problem called a lack of or having a fullness of a thing called discipline. Okay, if you have discipline, you can avoid getting sucked into drama. It doesn't have to be work drama. It could be family drama. It could be congregational drama. It could be anything. But if you have discipline, you can set some boundaries and not get sucked into the drama. Just say, hey, listen, I'm not interested in that. Go invite somebody else to join in. How am I to pull myself out of it? Well, it's very hard to pull yourself out of it. What you have to do is not get sucked into it. That's hard too, but it's easier than trying to get out of it once you're sucked into it, okay? And then, by the way, once you become consistent, you'll get a reputation of being a person that doesn't want to be in the drama, and they won't bring it to you. They're just not, because the people with the drama want to only play with the people that want to play, okay? So if you don't want to participate, eventually they'll leave you alone, okay? Next.
Right, from Rachel Espino, this one's a two-parter. When I first came into this walk, my fear of Abba was so intense, I was afraid I would do it wrong. Now that I've learned Torah and been taught so much, I struggle to show awe and reverence. How do I show this respect to Abba? What does it look like when the mechanics are understood?
What the awe and respect is for who gave you the instruction. So appreciating and recognizing the brilliance of it, the truth and reality that it works exactly like he said it would work. That should give you awe and reverence, okay? All right, all of us have heard somebody sing, right? We've heard people sing, but we act differently with a certain level of awe, not necessarily reverence, but awe, when maybe we hear Brianna sing, because she's got an exceptional talent, okay? Or you hear Celine Dion sing, or, whoever, okay? Ariana Grande, somebody's one great singing voices. So when we see there's a level of amazement that we should have, that Abba tells us things and it works exactly like he said, exactly like he promised, where should there not? Of course, there should be some wow, some awe, okay? And we should revere him as having chosen us to be a part of what he's doing. So the mechanics and applying the mechanics should give you the fruit that increases your awe and reverence. We don't have reverence and awe for him just because of the mechanics. We have awe and reverence for him because of who he is and what he's doing and how much he cares about us to tell us, like, if you do this, you'll have all these wonderful blessings and all these great results and fruit. All right, next.
From Olivia Dirth, in a family setting, if one family member is not dealing with their sin, does this cause negative consequences for the whole family, not just for them personally?
Not always, but certainly, absolutely, most of the time, probably. Okay, if somebody's not dealing with their sin, it could be affecting all the family members. It's certainly going to affect them. Depends on what the sin is, okay? But it can, anything in the family can affect everybody else in the family, good or bad. All right? Next.
Another one from Olivia. If we are having really hard circumstances one after another and is to grow your trust in him, if you pray, I believe, help my unbelief, is this not trusting him?
Well, you're trusting him to pray about it. The prayer itself doesn't mean you're trusting him. As a matter of fact, you're praying because you're weak and you're trusting, okay? So then he's going to answer you how? When you say, I believe, help me with my unbelief, how do you think he's going to answer that? By putting you in a situation where you need to trust him, okay? So no, the prayer it has a little bit of an aspect of trust because you're at least maybe in desperation, at least reaching out saying, I don't really trust you, help me with that, right? So you're making some effort, but the trust is going to come through experience, okay? My daughter, because of the way I raised her, the way I was there for her, has a certain level of trust that I will always keep her safe. If she's with me, everything's going to be okay, etc. Because her experience built that trust in that part of the relationship. Because I was always there, okay? And so Abba's always there. Abba says certain things and they play out. These are all things that through experience you learn to trust. Because you can believe that there's a God, but can you trust that that's good for you? Okay? All right, I believe somebody created all this. But how's that work with me? So belief without trust is really kind of empty, right? It's like the beginning stages. Trust comes to experience. Does that make sense to everybody? Is that fair? We trust because of the experience. The consistency of the result being, he was there for me, he was there for me, he was there for me. He did what he said. Everything he said would happen, happened exactly like he said. You know, that's the trust. Okay, including the bad things he said would happen and they actually happened the way he said they would. Well, that helps build trust that he knows what he's saying and what he says happens and he's telling the truth and it all plays out, right? All right, next.
This is the last one, Rabbi, from Elishiva Johansson. How can I know / understand whether I'm a worthless girdle or not?
I don't know why you're laughing. Look, I would send you to go listen to the In Focus. Okay, but let's understand the point. Okay? What is an actual worthless girdle? What does it mean? It means that it's like something that no longer is doing what it was designed to do. Okay? Okay, so if I have a belt, okay, say I have pants that without a belt, they just won't stay up, and I have a belt, but that belt, let's say, is an elastic belt, and it's so stretched out, it no longer gets tight enough to hold the pants up. So it's now a useless belt. In other words, it doesn't do anymore what it was designed to do, okay? When you get brakes changed in your cars because your brakes have become worthless, they're no longer able to do what you were designed to do, okay? So you get new things when things stop functioning as you need it to function. So when you say, how can I know and understand whether you're worthless? Well, you have to understand what he intended you to function like. But also so that's in the context of him, because the worthless girdle parable, so to speak, was about a relationship with him, okay? But you can have that same problem with anything, with being an employee, okay, with being a part of a family membership thing, being part of a congregation. If you have a role and an expectation of what you're to do in that role and you are not doing your role and you're not functioning in that role, you become useless in that role. If there's an expectation that you function a certain way and you don't function that way. And so that can make you also kind of worthless in that role, all right? I had to fire somebody when I was working in sales who worked for me because he wasn't selling. So he was worthless to me. He was taking up a payroll slot that I could not put anybody else in unless I fired him. I only had so many payroll slots. I said, I'm sorry, but you're just not selling anything, okay? Now, he happened to be doing part-time as a bartender. I said, look, you're making more money part-time as a bartender than working for me. Why don't you go work more days bartending and just quit this? So, and I said, let me fire you, you'll get unemployment. And so I actually sold him on the idea and he was happy I fired him. I was a pretty good salesman. I sold the guy on getting fired. Anyway, and he was as happy as could be. The thing is, it has to do with function. If you are not able to function as intended, then you're worthless in that function. Does that make sense now to everybody? Okay. And that was the last one? All right, thank you, John. Thank you, everybody.